Good evening. You are tuning in to AWANI Review with me, Cynthia Ng. On this show, we speak with business leaders, entrepreneurs, as well as individuals shaping the future of business and society. In this episode, we want to take a closer look at a company from Penang that for the past 20 years has provided a wide range of support to businesses, especially SMEs, to grow their digital presence. Joining me on the show today is Kee Siak, founder and CEO of Exabytes.
Well, thank you, Kee Siak, for coming on AWANI Review. I'm very excited to speak with you. Just to let our audience know, you are currently in Penang. This is where Exabytes is based. Now, let's start by talking about the COVID-19 pandemic, and then the resulting MCOs definitely have dealt a heavy blow to many businesses, but your company, Exabytes, has benefited from it. So we'll talk more about that later. Let's talk about how did it started. I understand that you were just 19 years old at that time.
Yes, I started a company when I was 19 years old. So that's exactly 20 years ago. So that time I was actually year one in college, Thar College, Penang. So many my college peers back then, you just want to find some extra income or pocket money, right? So I decided what I wanted to do is instead of go out and look for a part-time job, because I have the skills and also knowledge in terms of fixing computer. So I actually started my first business as a servicing and also selling computer parts. Then from that journey, it probably I ran that business for like 6 months. Then from the process, I read an article about Michael Dell. So I was greatly inspired by back then Michael Dell from his Dell.com, how he actually sell computers fully online, right? So I thought, okay, I need to have a website for my computer sales and service business. So from there, I start to learn about web design. Then only I realized, right, I actually need a server or hosting services in order for my visitors or my customers to be able to view my website effectively. Then from there, I realized there are not many service provider who offering web hosting services back then, especially in Malaysia. Then I saw that's opportunity, right? Then from my further research, then I end up became a reseller for a US company. Bear in mind that's 20 years ago where internet is just at the early stage. So quickly I became a reseller for a US company. Then I start to use the services for my own website. Then very soon I also offer to my customers and friends. Then slowly I do a bit of marketing online. Then then the rest is history. The business keep growing since then, and I stopped my computer business. I fully focus on the web hosting business until where 20 years later today. Yep.
That's quite a long journey, 30 years. Well,
Yes.
what's interesting is I found out that you actually quit college or university to start this company. Tell us about that decision back then.
Right. It's actually the other way around. I started a business when I was still in college, right? So at that time, on one hand, I'm a student. On the other hand, I'm start running two business. One is a selling computer. The other one is the web hosting business. And both business actually doing very well, especially the web hosting business. So it come to a point that because I have so many customers, I need to take care to serve them. So I start to actually skip my tutorial in school, in my college. Then I skip my lectures. Then later on, I skip my assignment. Then at the end, I skip my exam. So it come to a point that I have to make a decision, right? Focus back on the study, or I have to told myself, okay, you need to make a decisions. So back then, I actually make a decision as if, okay, why not I give myself 1 year to be fully focused on the business. In case I fail on the business, I can always go back to study. The college will be there still, right? But if I wait until 3 years later, I complete my study, then only full time into the business, I think 3 year means a lot for the business, right? The entire landscape will change. My competitor will grow even bigger, and who knows what will happen then, right? So with that as my logical thinking back then, and also I back by that time I already have some base in terms of my business, so it kind of like stable and growing. So I managed to convince myself and convince my parents to give me 1 year to try. Then since then we've been growing.
So you essentially went down the path like Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg. Would you advise others to do the same when they come to you and ask you for advice?
Uh, Only if they already started the business somehow and start showing tractions, right? So you see the difference is a lot of youngsters today, they wanted to do business and they first quit their study without starting the business or even without having any clues or ideas on what they want to do, right? I won't recommend that because I felt that is too risky. And always in business world, you only see the glory side, you only see the successful case study, right? But you know, every thousand probably there will be 990 that fail, but no one mentioned about that. So I think I won't recommend, I won't advise youngsters to quick study and go to business. They can do that concurrently if they have confidence that they can manage it well. Until it come to a point that it shows tractions, then it's fine. Then you decide what you want to do best. Yeah.
When you first started the company, there were very few in Malaysia that were offering services at that time. How has the industry changed over the years? And as a business, how have you grown since then?
Right. 20 years ago, when you subscribe for a hosting package, you'll be surprised what you get is only like 10 megabytes or probably like, if let's say you get a 50 megabyte package, it probably cost you like 5,000 or 10,000 a year. But I think technology changed a lot, right? Today you send one email, probably it's already 20, 30 megabyte, not a surprise. So that is how fast or how far the technology itself develop and change. Going back to the industry landscape, back then, those offering web hosting services, their majority are just ISP or telcos, and they are the local telcos, right? Versus today, pretty much everyone also jump into this cloud space, right? Microsoft have their cloud services, Amazon have cloud services, Alibaba have their cloud services. Pretty much everyone's doing that. So it's a lot more competitive. A lot of competitions, not just domestically but also internationally. What changed is also the offerings. During early days, it's very straightforward. Just the services to host website and emails. But today, it's already expanded to become so complicated, right? You have like containers, you have clouds, you have all sorts of digital needs. Yeah.
So I want to talk about, you mentioned competition, right? You're faced with a lot of big time, big names such as Alibaba, Microsoft. Tell us about your differentiation, because I understand from day one, Exabytes have been very focused on small businesses in Malaysia. Why small businesses? Why do you cater to this specific target?
Right. I think that's also because of where we started from or where we came from is surrounding with all sorts of small businesses. We ourselves also from a small businesses background. So very naturally, we started with the community or the audience that we are more familiar with. And without realizing, we have been doing that, for longest enough since day one. And also back then, a lot of companies or a lot of competitors or even those much bigger telcos, ISPs, right? Most of them they will prefer to serve much bigger corporations or enterprises because of the revenue and the fees or money they can collect is always way bigger, right? Versus the resources and effort you put in. But dealing with SME, probably you're talking about only few hundred ringgits a year, not few 100,000, but just few hundred ringgit a year per SME, right? So a lot of the businesses will, a lot of service provider will felt that is actually not justifying even the effort and cost. But for us, because we start with a very humble beginning and a very small base, we keep our costs low. So we managed to survive through that initial period until we grow our customer base to a much bigger base. As of today, we are servicing throughout the world, mainly Southeast Asian customers, about 160,000 of them, mostly SMEs, with a million over users. So we have like accumulated kind of like our know-how, our best practices, and also to really bring the cost down and maximizing the efficiency, we have to find ways to automate, right? So that you won't require that many employees versus a client headcounts, so that you can run the business very efficiently.
So I want to talk about the MCO and the COVID-19 pandemic. What has happened is the pandemic has accelerated digital adoption among businesses, SMEs here, probably one of the positive things that came out of this pandemic. And I understand that Exabytes has been very focused in helping SMEs to get on board to be digitized, really, the digitalize, and tell us about those things that you are doing. And do you feel that Malaysian SMEs are really on board with this digitalization aspect?
Yeah, so we have businesses across Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia. So what's interesting, we can actually compare and see what's the differences across the three markets. Yeah. So for our side, I'll start sharing with our own company. Actually, we declare work from home probably 2 weeks before our Prime Minister announced it, right? So that means we already prepared well ahead. So when the Prime Minister, the moment he announced the first MCO and lockdown and all that, right? Everyone is actually panicking, all the SME, all the businesses, because this is unprecedented, never happened before, right? But because we are already preparing for work from home 2 weeks in advance, so we are already into the mode. So when everyone is panicking, we already launch a lot of our online initiative, right? But to be honest, that time actually no one know what's going to happen and how long that will prolong. That one we only have one simple intention, right? Since everyone don't know what to do, what we can do is just share whatever information as well as the best practices that we know to help all the SME digitalize. So apparently it works out quite well during the first few weeks of MCO. We organize lots of webinars, sharing sessions and all that. Also bear in mind, right, the first few weeks actually there are not many webinars around still because everyone's still panicking, right? Then after we launch, then after that, right, more and more people also do something similar. Until it come to a point, there are like too many webinars and that's it. What we can also see the difference is that compared to, for example, Indonesia, where we are also in, um, the business user and also the market itself is actually not that ready for full digitalizations or even to handle the initial weeks and months of that lockdown. One example is, right, a lot of their employees in Indonesia, they actually not equipped with laptops, right? Usually they'll go to the office, they will use desktop to work. But when their government also announced everyone locked down and work from home, immediately the problems, right? They don't have proper computers to work at home, and most of them, they're probably from other villages or some other states, right? So in Jakarta, they are just renting a room. They don't even have a proper broadband. They just rely on mobile. So we can see that is one of the big differences in terms of uh, like in Malaysia, what we can see is that lockdown MCO, it accelerate the digital growth because our infrastructure and the people is ready. But same thing is not happening immediately in Jakarta back then because of the infrastructure and also their equipments are not ready. Singapore is different again, right? Because we saw Singapore companies, probably their living cost and is higher and their ability to spend on digitalization is also slightly more compared to Malaysia and Indonesia. So their adoption in terms of digitalization, they are probably looking at something even more advanced, more high end, more automations. Yeah, but in general,
Yeah.
that's quite positive. Yeah.
I want to understand what are some of the services when SMEs come to your company. What are some of the services that they need, they require in this time during the pandemic?
Right. So for the SME versus our other bigger customers, what they need are slightly different. Let's talk about this SME first. What we can see is that a lot of them either they totally don't have any digital or web presence in the past, but because of the MCO lockdown, they can't operate their retails, they can't do the business the usual way. Then they were forced to actually go online and they actually started with e-commerce. Numbers of them actually started with establish a simple website. So at least they start to get their product featured on the website. If they are inquiries, they can actually direct their customers to their website to place orders or view through their catalogs, and they can do the subsequent follow-up transactions over WhatsApp or other forms. For other enterprise or we call it the bigger customers, right, like enterprises or corporations, they will already have some forms of a web presence or digital presence in the past, right? They probably even have something in the pipeline where they want to do more advanced or more complex transformation. So when that lockdown or MCO kicks in, if they were not financially affected, we can see most of our customers will actually accelerate that adoption. Meaning to say, previously without the MCO, it probably will take 6 months for them to make the decisions. We can see a lot of them like immediately they want to make the call and do their, want to execute the project, bring the project 6 months to the front.
Do
That's how.
you still see, hesitancy among businesses to be on board to digitalize their business?
Uh, during our during March, April, that time is a lot of uncertainty. Then we come to like June, July, August. It's quite clear that everyone need to go full force on digital. But what happened was when it moved towards like October, November, I think the market is also opening up quite a bit. Then we saw some of the businesses seems like okay forgotten that painful experience. So some of them who haven't decided, then they are probably still haven't designed anything. But I would say majority of our customers who were already quite clear they have that digital or transformation roadmap in place, they actually continue to proceed and pursue. Their priority now is actually how can they also adopt and also deploy their online to offline strategy so that they have online complementing the offline. And if offline is affected, for example, another lockdown, right? How can they quickly swing their customers to online? Yeah, so we can see a lot of big brands, retailers are working towards that.
Now, with the growing use of mobile internet, how do you help to get SMEs on board mobile tech? Do they come to you and say like, which one with limited amount of money, what do you recommend? And do you go mobile or do you focus on desktop?
The reality is you can't really choose either mobile or desktop because we look at the traffic. I think still about 50% 60% is on mobile, but you still have 40% 50% is on desktop, right? So you choose just either one, you're probably losing half of the opportunity. But today, because of the competition and also technology advancement, there are many solutions out there that's actually compatible both mobile as well as what they call on the web. So SME, you don't really have to choose mobile or web. You can actually have both. Just you need to make sure you pick the right solutions.
For your company during this past year, during COVID and then the MCO, how has business grow for you? Has it been very positive compared
Yes,
to previous years?
overall, it's still is a positive growth. What's more interesting is we actually saw both sides of customers. Um, on the good side, we saw our new sales actually grow more than 50% year on year for new sales, right? But for our existing customers, there are some growth, but it's actually a bit stagnant. Reason being is there are some existing customers where their business are really badly affected, especially on the retail side. Then unfortunately they have to like downgrade or else cancel some of the services. But at least a good thing is when we put new sales and existing sales together, I mean the business together, we still see overall there's a healthy close to 10% year-on-year growth.
That's great. Now, one of Exabytes' initiative to help SMEs during this pandemic is the Samasama Initiative, which I understand has now been extended. Can you tell us more about this initiative and what does it aim to do?
Right. So that was actually an initiative from our partner, which is Equinus. So they have this CSR fund, which is they allocated to actually help Bumiputra, especially Bumiputra entrepreneurs, right? So they actually have the funds for many other areas, including like some is supporting the frontliners, some is more towards the direct end consumers. But for our side, because they are also one of our investors, so our program is surrounding how to help the Bumiputra entrepreneurs to go digital. So under the Samasama digital program, they actually subsidize up to 5,000 ringgit per qualified company. And we will also help the qualified company to further claim another 5,000 through MDEC and also the Bank Simpanan Nasional. They have this SME digitalization grants, right? So 5,000 plus 5,000 together, 10,000 has been subsidized. So that practically bring down the cost of going digital for any SMEs from original price of 12,000. Now the SME only need to invest only like as little as 2,000. Then the other 10,000 has been taken care of.
Can you share some of the success stories of homegrown brands, especially from the Samasama Initiative?
Right. So I think in the past, right, a lot of people have the intention and understand about the importance of having digital or e-commerce presence. But sometimes you look at the initial cost, then we are not too sure whether they'll be successful or how long it takes to do a full ROI. So there's a lot of bit hesitation here and there. So the approach is always like half cooked, right? You do a little bit here, then do a little bit there. But I think on one end is you have this pandemic and also lockdown MCO to, let all the businesses to feel the importance of having online presence. Then on the other side, with all the support or grants or whatever forms of assistance provided by government as well as private initiative, at least that actually uh, lower down their risk significantly, right? So a lot of them, for example, we have one customers who selling scarf. In the past, he'll probably just do it very manual way, through just social media or through friends and families. But the customers actually leverage on the programs and set up a full-fledged e-commerce stores, right? So now it has a more systematic approach to actually take orders and also allow the customers to place order easily. Compared to the very manual way, you have to message me, I message you bank details. That one is okay to start with, but you can't scale, right? When you have like 50 orders a day, everything probably will mess up. So you need some basic system to automate the ordering, the payment, invoicing, etc. Yeah. So we saw a lot of all these very energetic, very positive, very talented, homegrown entrepreneurs. They have very good products, uh, but without this pandemic, they are probably still hidden somewhere, right? But because of the pandemic, everyone with no choice but forced to make good use of digital. They fully turned themselves on for e-commerce, and now they actually expanded their sales. One of our customers, we can see their products actually increased by 40% because having a online presence. Yeah.
Now, Kee Siak, I understand that besides Exabytes, you are a founder. You invest in a few other startups. For instance, I know Easy Parcel, Easy Store, Easy Work, and these are some of the businesses that help small and micro businesses to manage their operations to bridge the gap between technology and also the new normal, right? So let's talk about that. As an investor yourself, if somebody who looks into technology, what are the future trends that you're seeing, pockets of opportunities that look exciting to you?
Um, Definitely, there's a huge opportunity in terms of logistic. When we talk about logistic, it's no longer just the B2B or the traditional logistic we talk about. Today, you probably see more and more people selling and also buying like live seafood as one example, right? So you need different kind of transport services to be able to bring the livestock from one place to the other at the shortest time. And not only that, it has to be really affordable, right? Because you don't want, you buy 50 ringgit of seafood, end up you spend 100 ringgit for the delivery, it doesn't make sense, right? So that area itself, I think there's a tremendous opportunity. The other trend is that we can see what we are buying now online is getting bigger and bigger, right? In the past, you probably buy some small gadgets or apparel, things like that. But today, because of you are not going to shopping malls, and that will probably continue for some time, you start to shop for bigger items. For example, a big flower pot, right? You're probably shopping for some furnitures or even mattress, right? So again, right, traditional logistic is not really designed to cater that kind of bulk items. So there's definitely areas where we can optimize further to actually lower down the cost for handling large size items. Um, for me, I saw the other opportunity is actually on the education side. Right now, it's quite clear that across all the different categories of businesses, everyone is talking about digital, talking about e-commerce, talking about cloud adoptions, right? All kind of IT things. But back to reality is right. We still don't have enough talents in terms of those who are really I won't say like super, but at least good knowledge of IT, digital marketing, e-commerce. We still don't produce enough, or what we produce is probably there's a gap versus what the industry or the market really needs, right? So if there's any ways to disrupt the education a bit, bring the syllabus up to the current standard, so that's more future proof. I think there'll be tremendous of opportunity. I can imagine a lot of businesses, their next hiring is no longer the traditional salesperson or traditional marketing. They probably would like to hire like e-commerce specialists, right? They want to hire some digital marketing expert. They would like to instead of hire a graphic designer, they want someone who can do some good video shootings and all that. So these are some of the new skill sets that's needed to empower the full digital and e-commerce economy, but it's lacking.
So will you be looking into expanding to some of those things that you have mentioned, or maybe invest in a company that is doing some of the trends that you're seeing?
Yes, so it begins with ourselves as a technology company. We need to hire a lot of these talents, and over the years, we're always struggling to find the right talents. So through some opportunity last year, we actually invested in the startup for education called Forward School. The idea is actually to disrupt a little bit of the education and also bridge the gaps what the education produce versus what the industry need. So some of the things we are doing is, right, we are aiming to actually shorten a typical full-fledged program from a standard 4 years. We want to reduce it to 2 years, right? Because I felt spend 4 years learning a computer knowledge is probably too long. What you learn in year one after you graduate, it become like outdated versions, obsolete already, right? So you have to reduce that to 2 years. On the other hand, right, we need to make sure what we feed the student with is exactly what the industry or the market needs. If not now, it will be what they need in the future to make sure the supply and demand is always aligned. Yeah, so we focus on these few things. And the other thing, how we do differently is um, we are quite flexible and creative in terms of what they call the tuition. Because a lot of students, they actually not from a great family, so they can't really afford the full tuition fees. And so what we do is we make it more flexible. We actually pair with some private sector, because all these private sector, they actually shortage of good IT talents, right? So there are numbers of private sector companies. They are actually willingly to immediately sponsor the students, right? The only commitment is after they finish their program, they will have the first right to actually offer the students to work in their company. And what's even interesting is some of the students we have, they already started, even they haven't finished their first year, right? When they work towards a second semester, they already start working with some of the projects in the company so that they start to pick up the knowledge while at the same time they practice what they learned. So I think that approach will solve the gaps.
Well, sounds like you're doing many exciting things. Thank you so much, Kee Siak, for speaking with me. And hopefully one day we'll be able to meet each other in person. Good luck. All the best with your future plans. Thank you.
Thank you. All the best and stay safe.